Do not panic! You are currently in a state of Ludumania, and I'm Mike the Ludumaniac. Today I will be playing Gradius, or Gradius as case may warrant, but I'm going to stick to Gradius since that's how I pronounce it all my life. An off-Romanization, apparently, of Gradius, which is a sort of sword that I believe was used in Roman Colosseum fights back in the day between gladiators. That was the type of blade that they generally preferred. But I'm probably way off in my history. I'm here to shoot ships and not talk about Roman history, so let's just get right into it. So I consider Gradius to be the third point of the Konami action trifecta, to which Castlevania and Contra also belong. And since I've already played Contra and Castlevania, I figured that Gradius would be the next logical step. Although Gradius predates both of those. 1985, or maybe even it was 84, I don't quite remember. Well, Gradius debuted in the arcade, and it got a very solid NES port. Of course, it did have to scale down the graphics, but the original Gradius was a really bloody hard game. The NES port made it relatively fair. It's challenging, but you're never too overwhelmed with the amount of crap that's on the screen. While in the arcade version, if I'm not mistaken, the difficulty was proportional to how many power-ups you had. Also, flying through the center of the volcano there gets you a 5,000 point bonus. And occasionally, you will get a blue power-up node, which mega crushes all the opponents. I think that happens like once out of every 15 or 20 or so power-ups that drop. From red enemies, or from shooting up sequences of enemies. Like, groups of enemies that come in usually about 5 or 6. Honestly, I didn't keep count. Ugh. I'm trying to comment while the game's running, and everything's just happening all at once. Yeah, there definitely is some sprite flickering. And you can only have 2 options at once, while all other versions of Gradius allow you to have 4. I suppose that's a bit of a compromise for the difficulty generally being easier to manage. But yeah, at the end of this level, we have to deal with a gigantic torrent of volcanic rocks from these twin volcanoes. Although if you're fully powered up, you can just mash the button repeatedly until they're all destroyed. Yeah, the end of most stages has you deal with an oncoming rush of a certain obstacle, and then this guy here, the big core ship, flies out to try and roast you. Once his core turns blue, or it probably doesn't have a gender because it's a spaceship. Unless it's a living spaceship. There we go. But yeah, you gotta shoot its little barrier notches, and then shoot down to its core, and then blow it up from there. If you don't destroy it in time, you don't get a cool point bonus, and it just blows up. Oh, I forgot to hit the question mark at the end there. Your Gradius is very distinctive for its power-up system, where you collect the power-up nodes here that move the bar across the ground. And then you press the non-fire button when it's on the power-up that you want, out of a row of 6. You can only ever have the double and laser active at one time, though. You can't cross those 2. Most people I know prefer the laser because it's more powerful, but the double is admittedly more versatile. So I'm gonna stick with that for a bit and see how it fares. But yeah, this is the Vic Viper at its absolute maximum. Vic Viper, I wonder where that name came from. That's the name of the ship you pilot, by the way, although most people who are familiar with Gradius lore probably already know that. And when I'm making these videos, I don't know if to strike a decent medium between people who aren't familiar with the game and those that, well, are. But, you know, I'll just explain things as I see fit. Like, I'm pretty sure all of these enemies have specific names to them, but I wouldn't be able to guess what or which. I want to say those things that appear from out of the air are called Zubs, however. Speaking of which, it's time for a Zub Rush! Be very aware of your surroundings. They could appear straight out of midair and boom right into your ship. Also, I got a bonus life there. The shield actually protects you from all angles, although it only looks like the diodes there are on the front. I can't remember if this is the case in the arcade game, but I know that this type of shield in later Gradius games only protects you from the front, so you have to be a lot more careful on those. Here, though, it's an all-encompassing shield. And usually, once you're powered up, what you'll want to do is actually try to avoid whatever power-up nodes you can. Destroy the ship in record time. But yeah, avoid all the power-up nodes you can, and have it resting on that blank final space there. Then, if you run out of your shield, then you can just hit the button and bam, instant shield again. It's a never-ending loop that leaves you fairly hard to kill. Unless you... Oh wow, getting peppered by quite a bit there. Oh, whoa, I don't like that guy. But yeah, of course the shield plan isn't flawless. If you do run out of power-ups before you're able to get some more, then that'll leave you high and dry. And of course, if you crash into a wall, you cannot be held accountable for that. That will destroy you instantly. Anyway, Stage 3 here brings us the Moai heads, the mascot of the Gradius series, and I want to say the actual mascot of Konami for a while. Based off of the real-life Easter Island heads, these guys stay stationary and shoot you with a lot of blue Fruit Loops. Got tongue-tied there a bit. That they're destructible, but they shoot a lot of them. So you will be beset with a lot of firepower here. So you just gotta keep mashing it because... Actually, there is auto-fire, but it's faster to mash. So if you got a decent trigger thumb for it, you may as well just keep mashing away. Also, quite a few of the heads are at angles where they wouldn't be easily destructible if you don't have the double. Ooh, and I got another bonus life from destroying that one. It's great. Uh-oh, this is not so great. Gotta deal with a rush of these large shipley thingies that look like they can crush me if I get pinned against the side of the... Whoa. Yeah, side of the woe there. Whoa, whoa. Okay, I was mashing both buttons right there because I didn't know if it was going to destroy my shield. And there we go, instant shield. I have to admit the laser would have been a lot more preferable in that case. Well, no matter, here's the big core. Who, compared to the arcade version, is really shrunken down. Yeah, the arcade, like, took up, spanned, like, a third of the screen, almost. Here, it's really been sized down. This may not be the best version of Gradius. I want to say that the best port was... Oh, hello! It's a warp stage! Okay, I don't know what triggers this, and I'm not sure if this is exclusive to the NES version. But I did something back there that causes these large laser head Moai projections to fly through the air. And as I found out after the fact, when I first saw this, I was really confused because I hadn't really seen that frequently. But apparently that skips you over Stage 4 and brings you right to Stage 5. Now, it has something to do with, like... I read the method that triggers that warp. I didn't actually mean to do it, but I guess we're skipping level 4 this time. However, I'll say I guess you're not missing that much, because level 4 is basically just level 1, except flipped upside down. And I think a little more difficult as well. But, I suppose in the grand scheme of things, we're not really missing too much. That'll bring us right to Stage 5, which is probably the least inspired level in the game. Where all we have to do is deal with an oncoming torrent of these large, brainy, tentacly things. And, that's the entire stage, really. Yeah, I gotta say, I want to say they were running a little dry in ideas here, because there's, like, no terrain to really differentiate between these guys. It's like... Yeah, there's no floors, and there's no walls to run into. It's just the brainy tentacles, or the... I don't even know what you call these things officially. I will have to say, if there's any weak point in Gradius, this level is probably it. I still find this game very fun, even if it is primitive compared to its successors. But, you know, I do appreciate simplicity in shmups. I mean, you know, back for 1985, this was considered really advanced. I mean, shmups that had actual level structures, instead of basically repeating the same sort of hazards that you see over and over again. Like, before this, before Gradius, the most revolutionary shmup there was... I know that word shmup annoys people sometimes, so I'll just go with shoot 'em up if I can remember. The best shoot 'em up back before Gradius was definitely Xevious by Namco, which laid down several conventions of the shoot 'em up genre. But for the vertical perspective, Gradius was the first shmup to really bring the horizontal perspective into popularity. And there is quite a bit of debate over whether vertical or horizontal is preferred. I don't really have a preference, I just like shooting things in space. Although Xevious didn't take place in space, it took place over terra firma. But yeah, Gradius here might not seem like much, but it really was a coat of fire for very popular genre that remained quite popular throughout the 80s, before it became a lot more niche in the 90s onward. So it goes. Anyway. Yeah. So Stage 5 back there, probably the boringest, but thankfully the last two levels do spice things up considerably. I'm going to switch back to the laser now. I think I've stuck to the double long enough, and oh my, we are getting shot by quite a bit. I want to say that there is still some degree of difficulty adjustment. Like, since I'm fully powered, it seems like I am being shot by a lot more. Some sort of dynamic difficulty, which I know the arcade version has. I'm not sure if the NES version has it, or, you know, if it's just this naturally evil. But anyway, here we go to Stage 6, which is quite a different feeling from most of the rest of the levels. It's all icky and organic. Almost every Gradius game has a biological level in it, where you're going through what looks like the inside of some sort of giant organism, instead of flying over like a planet full of grass or fire or whatever. So, can't get around that power if I'm going to have to deal with it. And I want to say that this level is a prototype to that. I mean, it doesn't look blatantly organic, but it does look pretty alien, and these amoebas are nowhere else in the game. So this is definitely a more original level compared to that. Compared to Stage 5, which was pretty monotonous. But hey, big surprise! We even face a new boss that isn't the core ship! This gigantic nucleus spits out destructible bullets at a really quick rate. And oh my god, it's really jacking up my points down there. I already have 7 lives. How'd that happen? Anyway, I think you have to shoot it direct, and eventually it'll move aside, or maybe you just have to survive that torrent of bullets. Yeah, that's a little bit confusing. Not sure if you're just supposed to survive, or if it is actually destructible in the center there. I don't think I got a giant point bonus for finishing it, so maybe I did that wrong. Well, whatever the case. Here we are, on to the final level. Another tradition for Gradius is that the final stage is always really high-tech and mechanical. And that held true even since the beginning. Oh boy, I'm really being pelted there. I just realized it might be better to have the double instead. Here, let me get hit on purpose. And, oh my, wish I could hit these guys in the ceiling. This guy, we just have to watch ourselves. Oh geez. Okay. Gotta say the double will be a lot more helpful than the laser in this level. Whoa! Whoa! Now, I've gone this far without losing a life. We'll see if we can hold to that. But I make no guarantees, because Ludumania is all about failure and me overcoming failure whenever it's possible. However, I just got the shield there, so things are easier going from this point on. I should hope. Forever? Maybe? I don't know. Well, as you can see, there's not as much room to move around as in other levels, and the amount of those walker guys is getting to be pretty obnoxious. If we just keep a decent trigger finger, we should be just fine. One piece of advice, though. This little bit here, make sure you get into the far right side of the screen. Really, really nasty trick the game pulls there. However, if you do that, here we are at a giant brain! Da, 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 da. I don't think shooting it makes any difference, because just after a few seconds, this naturally happens. A very early video game cutscene. And the enemy base is destroyed. That seemed a little unceremonious, didn't it? Another Gradius series tradition is that the final boss is a chump. It barely puts up a fight, if any at all. That one put up 0 fight. And, it just keels over and you win. Like, the concept of the anti-climax boss... Probably there was some game to predate it before Gradius, but... Gradius definitely made it popular, whatever the case. That being said, I don't mind that the series has really easy final bosses, because everything else that comes before them is really difficult to deal with. So... it's nice to have a breather and then just relax once you've reached the end. Instead of throwing out something so horrendously crushing that you have to go through the level again and then you wonder, oh god, how can I do this? Oh, lord. Well, I guess this one loop of Gradius all in all, potentially you can keep looping over as many times as you like. But, I managed to do that without dying, and I now have 8 lives. So... I guess I'm going to end the video wasting all of them and explain how loss works in Gradius. Because every time you die, you lose all of your power-ups, which is a really brutal punishment to say the least. Some would say that for most Gradius games, it's best just to intentionally start over if you ever have to continue. Because your ship is slow, and you just have your pea-shooter gun with you, no options, or lasers, or missiles, or whatever. The only concession you get is that if you die with a power-up in tow, as indicated on the bottom menu, then you can carry that over, so you at least have a speed-up to make things easier if you have to continue. If only just a little bit. But... yeah, the stakes are pretty vicious in Gradius if you do lose. So, it's up to you whether or not you want to restart the game entirely, because some Gradius games does feel like, you know, you can't climb back up. Or you can, but it'll take like 20 continues if the game allows you to. However, I'm pretty sure the first Gradius actually does not allow you to continue. To compensate, it is quite a short game, and the NES version in particular is not too tough, but there are other versions that are really difficult. In fact, I'll let you in a little secret. I want to record the PC Engine version of this game, which is arguably the best version of the original Gradius. It's even better than the arcade title in graphics and sound, and it even has a new level. But, I got kind of frustrated playing it, because I died once halfway and I could not pick myself back up, so rather than just play it again, my spirit was broken and I aborted it. So I went for the NES version as something of a compromise, which is probably too easy because I didn't die at all until just now when I am trying to lose on purpose. So that's balance for you, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot I can say about Gradius and space shooters in general. Like, there were so much of them in the 80s. I don't know how that became popular. My guess is just because Star Wars was a really big thing, and the concept of, like, everyone was... well, a lot of people were wowed with the raid on the Death Star in Episode 4, and, people were like, wow, I'd love to play a game like that. And then they made, lots of games like that. They didn't make a game exactly like that until Rogue Squadron for the N64. Did Rogue Squadron have a run on the Death Star? I know Rogue Leader, its sequel, did, but I want to say it was included in Rogue Squadron as a bonus level. Yeah, I'm kind of a Star Wars geek. I don't know really a lot about the expanded universe except for Dark Forces. But, whatever the case, I want to say that Star Wars' impact is what led to a lot of space shooters. I am probably way off, though. Anyway, eventually, we lose all of our lives, and yeah, I don't think continues are allowed. They are in all future Gradius titles, but it's quite a struggle to pick yourself back up. Still though, for being as primitive as it is, well, I don't want to say primitive because, in my opinion, it still looks decent by today's standards, although future Gradius games really kick the crap out of it. Gradius 2, released for the Famicom, is one of the most impressive looking and sounding games on the system. But unfortunately, we didn't get the Famicom version of Gradius 2 over here. I want to say we didn't get any version of Gradius 2 officially released in the USA until the Gradius collection for the PSP many years later. Which has also the first time we ever saw Gradius Gaiden on here, which, for my money, is the greatest entry of the series. But, anything else to talk about? I apologize if anyone would have preferred I said Gradius all throughout, but like I said, I just grew up pronouncing it Gradius. Give me some credit because I've learned to say Mario instead of Mario, and I have been saying Mario for a while until, I don't know, 8 years ago or so. But that's neither here nor there. I suppose, you know what, that'll do for now. This is the point where I start to get babbly, and I should just really cut it. You've seen the game almost entirely in total. Sorry I skipped over level 4. I forget what triggers that warp, but like I said, it's just stage 1, but flipped over. Even the volcanoes are the same. In other versions of the game, though, you do get a different hazard than volcanoes. You get assaulted by a bunch of mini-volcanoes instead, flying around in some, gyrocopters or whatever. But that's not present in the NES title. They had to cut that out for whatever reason. So yeah, a bit of a scaled-down port, but I think a good one, if not just for the fact that it's relatively fair to play. So, there are definitely worse versions to play of Gradius, I am sure, but I couldn't tell you what they are. Anyway, I think that'll do for Ludumania, because, I should probably go to bed soon. Yeah, I gotta learn to record these earlier, but I'm trying to balance this out with other facets of my life, which really a tricky tightrope walk, to say the least. Okay, okay, shut up, Mike, that's enough. Mike the Ludumaniac for Ludumania. Your State of Ludumania is over for now. I don't know when my next video will be up, but do stay tuned and keep on watching. Take good care of yourself until then.